Unexpected encounter. The crimson sun of Kepler 186 cast long shadows across the alien landscape as Captain Ilara Chen surveyed the horizon through her suit's visor. The exoplanet's rust-colored flora swayed gently in the breeze, creating an almost hypnotic rhythm that belied the hostility of this world to human life. Oxygen levels still nominal, but that methane spike is concerning, reported Dr. Amit Patel, the team's exobiologist. His gloved hand gestured towards a nearby cluster of mushroom-like growths, their caps pulsating slowly. Those fungal analogs seemed to be the source. Delara nodded, her eyes still scanning their surroundings. This was humanity's first manned mission beyond the solar system, and the weight of that responsibility pressed down on her more heavily than the exoplanet's enhanced gravity. Keep an eye on those readings, Amit. Marco, how's our perimeter looking? Sergeant Marco Alvarez, the team's security specialist, was crouched near the edge of the small clearing they designated as their temporary base camp. His polymer composite rifle was at the ready, its matte black finish a stark contrast to the vivid hues of the alien vegetation. All clear, Captain. No movement besides the local flora. But something feels off. Ilara had learned to trust Marco's instincts over their years of service together. Elaborate, she prompted, moving to join him at the perimeter. Marco's brow furrowed behind his visor. It's too quiet. We've seen signs of insectoid and avian life forms, but nothing's making noise. It's like everything's hiding. As if on cue, a piercing shriek cut through the air, causing the entire team to flinch. The sound was unlike anything they'd heard on Earth, a cross between a metallic screech and an organic wail. Contact, Marco shouted, raising his rifle towards the source of the noise. From the dense undergrowth burst a creature that defied easy classification. It moved on 6 limbs, its body covered in iridescent scales that shifted color with each movement. But what caught Ilara's attention wasn't its alien physiology. It was the dark fluid seeping from multiple wounds on its body. Hold fire, Ilara commanded, her hand raised. The creature collapsed mere meters from their position, its chest heaving with labored breaths. Up close, Ilara could see intelligence in its multifaceted eyes. This wasn't some mindless beast. It was a sentient being. Dr. Patel was already moving forward, his scientific curiosity overriding caution. Incredible. Hexapodal locomotion, but with clear signs of bilateral symmetry. The coloration suggests adaptive camouflage capabilities. And look at those injuries. Some kind of energy weapon, perhaps. Amit, careful, Ilara warned. But the exobiologist was already kneeling beside the wounded alien. The creature's eyes fixed on Amit, then darted to each member of the team in turn. It made a series of clicking sounds, interspersed with low-pitched hums. When no one responded, it tried again, this time accompanied by gestures with its upper limbs. It's trying to communicate, Ilara realized aloud. She took a cautious step forward, hands raised in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. We're not going to hurt you, she said slowly, knowing the words were meaningless but hoping the tone would convey their intent. The alien's color shifted, taking on a more subdued hue. It reached out with one limb, touching its own chest, then gestured towards Ilara. The meaning seemed clear. It was asking who they were. Ilara mimicked the gesture, touching her own chest. Human, she said clearly. Then she pointed to the alien. You? The creature made a sound that was almost like a cough, followed by a series of rapid clicks. Zikthar, it managed to produce, the word sounding strained through its alien vocal apparatus. Zikthar, Ilara repeated, nodding. We're here to help. Dr. Patel was already pulling out his medical kit. These wounds need treatment. I'm not sure how our medicines will interact with its physiology, but we have to try something. As Amit began to examine the Zikthar more closely, Marco kept his rifle trained on the surrounding area. Captain, we should move. Whatever did this could still be out there. Ilara knew he was right, but moving an injured alien of unknown biology presented its own risks. She was about to respond when the Zikthar suddenly tensed, its colors flaring bright red. It made a series of urgent clicks and hums, gesturing frantically towards the sky. Following its gaze, Ilara saw a shimmer in the air like heat waves on a hot day. But this was no natural phenomenon. The distortion was moving, descending rapidly towards their position. Cloaking technology, Marco breathed, his voice a mix of awe and fear. The air rippled, and suddenly they were faced with a craft unlike anything in the human arsenal. It was all smooth curves and gleaming surfaces, hovering silently above the clearing. A hatch rised open, and 3 figures emerged, bipedal but with elongated limbs and heads that seemed too large for their bodies. The Skithar tried to rise, fear evident in its movements, but collapsed back to the ground with a pained cry. The newcomers raised weapons, sleek devices that hummed with energy. Ilara's mind raced. First contact had just become infinitely more complicated. She raised her hands slowly, motioning for her team to do the same. "We mean no harm," she called out, hoping against hope that some form of communication was possible. The lead alien tilted its oversized head, studying them with large, almond-shaped eyes. It made a series of melodic tones, completely different from the Zithar's language. When Ilara and her team didn't respond, it tried again, this time in halting English. "You not belong here," it said, the words sounding strange from its lipless mouth. "This, our world." Ilara's surprise at hearing her own language was overshadowed by the implications of the alien statement. "We're explorers," she explained carefully. "We didn't know this planet was claimed. We found this being injured, and we're trying to help." The alien's gaze shifted to the Zithar, and its expression, if it could be called that, hardened. "Zithar? Enemy. You help enemy. You become enemy." Marco tensed beside her, his finger hovering near the trigger of his rifle. Ilara placed a calming hand on his arm. "One wrong move could spark an interstellar incident, or worse." "We don't know anything about your conflict," Ilara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "On our world, we help those in need, regardless of their affiliations. Please, let us explain." The alien considered her words, its large eyes blinking slowly. It conferred briefly with its companions in their melodious language before turning back to Ilara. "You will come with us. Bring the Zithar. Our leaders will decide your fate." Ilara knew they had little choice. Their lander was hours away, and even if they could reach it, they had no way to outrun the alien craft. She nodded slowly. "We'll come peacefully, but the Zithar needs medical attention." The alien made a gesture that might have been agreement. "Our medical facility's superior. It will be treated, then judged." As the team prepared to board the alien craft, with Dr. Patel carefully lifting the injured Zithar, Ilara couldn't help but reflect on the magnitude of what was happening. They had come to this distant world seeking knowledge, hoping to expand humanity's understanding of the universe. Instead, they had stumbled into an interstellar conflict they knew nothing about. The interior of the alien ship was a marvel of technology, with surfaces that seemed to shift and change as they walked. Ilara and her team were led to a holding area, a room with walls that were somehow both solid and translucent. The injured Skuthar was taken elsewhere, its fate unknown. As the door sealed behind them with a soft hiss, Ilara turned to her team. Their faces reflected the mix of fear, awe, and determination she felt herself. "Well, team," she said, trying to inject some confidence into her voice, "it looks like our mission parameters have changed. Our priority now is to understand this situation and find a peaceful resolution, not just for our sake, but for humanity's first steps into a wider galactic community." Dr. Patel nodded eagerly, his scientific curiosity seemingly undiminished by their predicament. "The technological implications alone are staggering. Did you see how their ship's systems interface with their biology? It's like nothing we've ever conceived of." Marco, ever the pragmatist, was less enthusiastic. "That's assuming they don't decide to dissect us for their own scientific curiosity, Doc. We need to be prepared for anything." Ilara understood both perspectives. The situation was fraught with danger, but also ripe with potential. As the alien ship hummed to life around them, carrying them to an unknown destination, she knew that the decisions they made in the coming hours and days could shape the course of human history. "Whatever happens," she said, meeting each of her team members' eyes in turn, "we're in this together. We'll face it as we faced every challenge on this mission, with courage, intelligence, and humanity's unbreakable spirit." As if in response to her words, the ship's engines pulsed, and they felt a subtle shift in gravity. Through the translucent walls, they could see the rust-colored landscape of Kepler 186 stuff falling away beneath them. They were ascending into the unknown, carrying with them the hopes and fears of their entire species. The first chapter of humanity's true cosmic adventure had begun, and Ilara Chen and her team were writing it with every breath they took on this alien ship, hurtling towards an uncertain future among the stars. Perilous journey. The alien ship shuddered, its sleek form buckling under an unseen force. Captain Ilarichin was thrown against the translucent wall of their holding cell, the impact knocking the wind from her lungs. Around her, her team scrambled to find purchase as the ship lurched again. What's happening? Dr. Amit Patel shouted, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. Before anyone could respond, the door to their cell rised open. One of the alien crew, the same species that had captured them, with its oversized head and elongated limbs, stumbled in. Its large, almond-shaped eyes blinked rapidly in what Ilara interpreted as distress. Ship, under attack, it managed in broken English. Your help, needed, come. Sergeant Marco Alvarez tensed, his hands instinctively reaching for a weapon that wasn't there. Could be a trap, he muttered. Ilara shook her head. We don't have much choice. If the ship goes down, we go with it. She turned to the alien. We'll help. What do you need us to do? The alien gestured for them to follow, leading them through corridors that seemed to shift and pulse with each impact the ship sustained. As they ran, Ilara caught glimpses through viewports of a fierce space battle raging outside. Sleek ships, similar to the one they were on, exchanged fire with more angular, aggressive-looking craft. The Zkathar. Amit breathed, recognizing the design from the wounded alien they had encountered on the planet's surface. They'd arrived at what appeared to be the ship's bridge, a circular room dominated by holographic displays and control interfaces that defied human understanding. The alien captain, distinguishable by markings on its environmental suit, turned to them. Our systems, compromised, it explained hurriedly. Need manual override to engage emergency protocols. Ilara nodded, quickly assessing the situation. Marco, you're with me. We'll handle any physical threats. Emmett, see if you can make sense of their technology. Maybe your xenobiology knowledge can give us some insight into their systems. As they set to work, the ship rocked with another impact. Through the main viewport, Ilara saw a Zkathar ship approaching, its weapon systems glowing ominously. Brace for impact, she shouted. The blast hit them head-on. Alarms blared as systems failed across the ship. The alien crew worked frantically at their stations, but it was clear they were fighting a losing battle. We're losing altitude, Marco reported, reading one of the few displays he could interpret. We're going to crash. The alien captain made a series of melodic tones that Ilara assumed were orders. The ship's nose angled downward, aiming for the planet's surface. It was a controlled descent, but only barely. Everyone, secure yourselves. Ilara commanded. She grabbed onto a nearby console, her knuckles white inside her gloves. The ship plummeted through the atmosphere, its hull glowing red-hot from the friction. The alien technology fought against gravity, slowing their descent, but it wasn't enough. With a bone-jarring impact, they hit the ground, skidding across the alien landscape before coming to a rest in a grove of those strange, pulsating mushroom-like growths they had observed earlier. For a moment, everything was silent. Then slowly, the emergency systems kicked in. Dim lighting flickered to life, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. Ilara pushed herself up, wincing at the pain in her ribs. Sound off. Is everyone okay? One by one, her team and the alien crew responded. There were injuries, but miraculously, no fatalities. As they gathered their wits, the alien captain approached Ilara. Thank you for your help, it said, its English seeming to improve with use. But we are not safe. Zkathar will come. Ilara nodded grimly. What are our options? The alien gestured to a holographic display that still functioned. It showed a map of the surrounding area with a pulsing point some distance away. Outpost there. Can call for help, but journey dangerous. Marco studied the map. That's at least a 2-day trek through unknown terrain, and we'll be exposed the whole way. Amit, who had been examining some of the ship's damaged systems, spoke up. Captain, I don't think we have a choice. This ship isn't going anywhere, and its distress beacon was damaged in the crash. If we stay here, we're sitting ducks. Ilara weighed their options quickly. Agreed. We make for the outpost. Gather whatever supplies and weapons you can salvage. We move out in 10 minutes. As they prepared for the journey, Ilara couldn't help but notice the alien crew's wary glances. Despite their shared ordeal, trust was still a fragile thing between their species. She approached the alien captain, determined to bridge the gap. I realize we got off to a rough start, she said, but we're in this together now. I'm Ilara. What should we call you? The alien seemed to consider for a moment before responding. In your language, closest sound is Zin. Ilara nodded. Zin it is. We'll do everything we can to get your crew to safety. Zin's large eyes blinked slowly. Perhaps we judged too quickly. Humans show courage. With supplies gathered and makeshift weapons distributed, the mixed group of humans and aliens set out into the alien wilderness. The landscape was both beautiful and terrifying, familiar in its basic forms of plant life and geological features, yet utterly alien in its details. They hadn't gone far when Amit called for a halt. He was crouched near one of the pulsating fungal growths, his scanner out. "Captain, you need to see this," he said, his voice filled with a mix of awe and concern. Ilara joined him, and Zin moved closer as well, curiosity evident in its stance. Amit pointed to his readings. "These organisms aren't just plants or fungi as we understand them. They're connected. All of them. It's like a planet-wide neural network." Zin made a sound that might have been surprise. Old stories speak of planet alive. Thought myth. Marco, ever alert for danger, scanned the horizon. "That's fascinating, Doc. But how does it affect us?" As if in answer to his question, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The fungal growths pulsated more rapidly, their caps opening to release spores into the air. In the distance, a low rumble grew louder. "Move!" Ilara shouted, recognizing the signs of danger. They broke into a run just as the ground behind them erupted. A massive worm-like creature burst from the earth, its segmented body covered in the same iridescent scales they had seen on the injured Sithar. It let out a deafening roar, then plunged back into the ground, tunneling towards them at frightening speed. "It's hurting us," Marco yelled as they ran, "driving us away from the outpost." Ilara's mind raced. They couldn't outrun the creature, and their weapons were likely useless against his armored hide. They needed a plan fast. "Zin," she called out, "does your species have any experience with creatures like this?" Zin, running alongside her, shook its oversized head. "Not encountered. Planet full of surprises." The creature erupted from the ground again, this time right in their path. The group skidded to a halt, finding themselves trapped between the beast and a sheer cliff face. Emmet, his scientific curiosity somehow intact even in the face of mortal danger, was furiously tapping at his scanner. "The fungal network," he exclaimed. "It's controlling the worm somehow. If we could disrupt it." Ilara didn't need to hear more. "Everyone, target the fungal growths," she ordered, raising her salvaged alien weapon. The air filled with the hum of energy weapons as human and alien alike opened fire on the pulsating fungi. The effect was immediate. The worm-like creature writhed in apparent pain, its movements becoming erratic. But their victory was short-lived. The ground beneath their feet began to give way, the cliff face crumbling as the worms' thrashing destabilized the entire area. "Look out!" Marco shouted, pushing Ilara and Zin clear as a massive boulder crashed down. The last thing Ilara saw before darkness took her was the ground opening up beneath them, sending humans and aliens alike tumbling into the depths of the alien world. She awoke to the sound of dripping water and Emmett's voice urgently calling her name. Groaning, Ilara pushed herself up, her head throbbing. They were in some kind of underground cavern, dimly lit by bioluminescent organisms clinging to the walls. "Status report," she managed, her voice hoarse. "We're all alive," Marco responded, helping one of the alien crew members to its feet. "But we're cut off from the surface. No clear way back up." Zin approached, its movements cautious in the unfamiliar environment. "Outpost systems may detect us here, but also may attract unwanted attention." Ilara nodded grimly. They had escaped one danger only to find themselves in an even more precarious situation. But as she looked around at the mixed group of humans and aliens, she saw not defeat, but determination. "We'll find a way," she said with more confidence than she felt. "We've come too far to give up now." As they gathered their remaining supplies and prepared to navigate the underground labyrinth, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The alien planet had proven to be far more than they had bargained for, full of wonders and terrors beyond their imagination. But with every challenge they faced, the bonds between human and alien grew stronger. They were no longer captor and captive, but allies in survival. And somewhere in these dark tunnels lay the key not just to their rescue, but perhaps to a new understanding between their species. With a deep breath, Ilara led the way into the unknown depths of Kepler 186 death, the fate of two species resting on their shoulders. Revelations and alliances. The darkness of the underground caverns seemed to press in on all sides as Captain Ilarichin led her mixed group of humans and aliens through the twisting passageways. The bioluminescent organisms that clung to the walls cast an eerie, shifting light that played tricks on their eyes, making shadows dance and move in unsettling ways. Dr. Emmett Patel walked close behind Ilara, his scanner held out before him like a divining rod. Fascinating, he murmured, his scientific curiosity seemingly undiminished by their dire circumstances. The mineral composition down here is unlike anything I've ever seen. And these life forms, he gestured to the glowing organisms. They seem to be responding to our presence. Sergeant Marco Alvarez, bringing up the rear of the group, kept his salvaged alien weapon at the ready. That's great, Doc, he said, his voice tight with tension, just as long as they don't respond by trying to eat us. Zin, the alien captain, moved with a grace that belied its awkward-looking physiology. Its large eyes, adapted for low light conditions, scanned the caverns ahead. Many stories of what lies beneath, it said, its English continuing to improve with use. Most thought legends. Now, not so sure. As they traversed deeper into the planet's crust, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being guided. The tunnels, while natural in appearance, seemed to follow a pattern, leading them ever downward in a spiral path. Captain, Marco called out suddenly, his voice echoing in the cavern. Look at this. Ilara turned to see Marco pointing at a section of the wall. At first glance, it appeared no different from the rest, but as she looked closer, she saw it. Faint lines and curves etched into the rock, forming intricate patterns that were decidedly not natural. It's some kind of writing, Emmett breathed, running his hand over the markings. Or art. Maybe both. Zin approached, its head tilted in curiosity. It made a series of melodic tones, then turned to the humans. Not recognize. Not our language. Not Skithar. Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. You mean there's another intelligent species involved in all this? Before Zin could respond, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. The bioluminescent organisms pulsed brightly, their light almost blinding in the darkness of the cavern. Then, with a grinding of stone on stone, a section of the wall slid away, revealing a passage that glowed with a soft blue light. Marco raised his weapon, but Ilara put a hand on his arm. Hold fire, she ordered. This doesn't feel like a threat. Indeed, there was something almost inviting about the newly revealed passage. The air that wafted from it was fresh and cool, carrying scents that reminded Ilara of a spring morning on Earth. We go, Jin said, its tone leaving no room for argument. Answers lie ahead. With a mix of trepidation and excitement, the group entered the passage. As they walked, the rough stone walls gave way to smooth surfaces that seemed to glow from within. The air hummed with energy, and Ilara felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. Suddenly, the passage opened up into a vast chamber. Ilara gasped, her eyes struggling to take in the scene before her. The chamber was a perfect dome, its ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. At its center stood a structure that defied easy description, a swirling mass of light and energy that pulsed in complex patterns. It's beautiful, Hammett whispered, his voice filled with awe. Zin made a sound that might have been agreement. Machine, it said, but alive. Sentient. As if in response to Zin's words, the swirling energy coalesced into a form. It was vaguely humanoid, but constantly shifting, as if unable to decide on a final shape. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once, resonating in their minds rather than their ears. Welcome, it said, the word somehow understandable to both humans and aliens. We have waited long for this moment. Ilara stepped forward, her heart pounding. Who? What are you? The being's form shimmered. We are the Guardians. We have watched over this world since before your ancestors first looked to the stars. Zin made a series of rapid clicks, which the being seemed to understand. Yes, it responded. We are the source of the legends your people tell. We are the life of this planet, and of many others. Emmett could barely contain his excitement. The fungal network on the surface, the creatures we encountered. You control them all. Not control, the being corrected. Guide, protect. We are the caretakers of life in this sector of the galaxy. Marco, ever practical, cut to the heart of the matter. Why reveal yourselves to us now? And what does this have to do with the conflict between Zin's people and the Zikthar? The being's form rippled, taking on a more somber aspect. The conflict you speak of is but a symptom of a greater problem. Both your species, in your race to the stars, have forgotten the most important lesson, the interconnectedness of all life. Images began to form in the air around them, worlds teeming with life, cosmic phenomena of breathtaking beauty and scenes of devastating destruction. We have watched as your civilizations have grown, the being continued. We have seen your potential for greatness, but also for terrible destruction. The battle that brought you here was no accident. We orchestrated events to bring representatives of both species to this place. Ilara felt a surge of anger. You put our lives at risk, caused us to crash, all to teach us a lesson. The being's form flickered. We regret the necessity, but the stakes are too high. The conflict between your peoples threatens not just your own species, but the delicate balance of life in this entire sector. Zin stepped forward, its large eyes fixed on the energy being. What you ask? Peace between our kinds. Too much hurt, too much history. Not just peace, the being replied. Understanding, cooperation. You must learn to see beyond your differences, to recognize the common thread that binds all life. As the being spoke, Ilara felt a strange sensation wash over her. Suddenly, she could sense the life force of everyone in the chamber, human, alien, and even the planet itself. She saw the complex web of connections that linked them all, the ebb and flow of energy that tied them to the universe. From the gasps and murmurs around her, she knew the others were experiencing the same thing. This is what's at stake, the being said. This connection, this harmony. It exists across the galaxy, across the universe. But it is fragile, easily disrupted by conflict and misunderstanding. The sensation faded, leaving Ilara feeling both exhilarated and deeply humbled. She looked at Zin, seeing the alien in a new light. Despite their physical differences, she could now sense the fundamental similarities that united them. What would you have us do? She asked the being, her voice barely above a whisper. The energy swirled, forming into a shape that resembled a seed. Take this knowledge back to your peoples. Show them what you have seen, what you have felt. Be the bridge that unites not just your two species, but all life in this sector. Zin made a sound that Ilara now recognized as agreement. Difficult task, the alien said, but necessary. We will try. Marco, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke up. That's all well and good, but we still have a more immediate problem. There's a Skithar force on the surface that's likely still looking for us, and we're no closer to reaching that outpost. The being's form rippled in what might have been amusement. The journey to understanding is never easy, but you will not face it alone. It gestured, and a section of the chamber wall slid away, revealing a new passage. This will lead you to the surface, near your destination. But be warned, the final steps of your journey must be taken on your own. Ilara nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Thank you, she said to the being. We won't let you down. As they prepared to leave, Amit turned back to the energy being, his eyes shining with curiosity. There's so much more I want to ask, so much to learn. The being's form shimmered. All knowledge comes in time, Dr. Patel. For now, focus on the task at hand. The future of your species, of all species in this sector, depends on what you do with what you've learned here. With a final look at the miraculous chamber, Ilara led her team into the new passage. As they walked, she could feel a change in the group dynamic. The distrust and wariness that had marked their earlier interactions were gone, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. They emerged from the underground complex to find themselves on a hillside overlooking a vast plain. In the distance, they could see the gleaming structures of what must be the outpost they had been seeking. But between them and their destination lay a challenge greater than any they had faced so far. A Zikthar ship had landed on the plain, and armed forces were spreading out, clearly searching for something or someone. Ilara turned to her team, human and alien alike. Well, she said, a grim smile on her face, it looks like we've got one more hurdle to overcome. Zin stepped up beside her, its posture mirroring her own. Together, it said simply. As they began to formulate a plan, Ilara couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. They had been brought together by chance, shaped by adversity, and enlightened by an ancient intelligence. Now, they faced their greatest test, not just to survive, but to forge a new path for their species and for all life in this corner of the galaxy. The fate of worlds rested on their shoulders, but as Ilara looked at the determined faces around her, she knew they were equal to the task. Their journey was far from over, but the next step was clear. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their newfound understanding of the cosmic tapestry that bound them all. Betrayal and sacrifice. The alien sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the vast plain that separated Captain Ilara Chen's group from their destination. The gleaming structures of the outpost shimmered in the distance, a tantalizing beacon of hope. But the Zikthar forces spread out between them and safety presented a formidable obstacle. Ilara crouched behind a rocky outcropping, surveying the situation through a pair of high-powered binoculars. Beside her, Zin's large eyes blinked slowly as the alien captain assessed the threat. At least 24 Zikthar warriors, Ilara murmured. Heavy weaponry. They're thorough in their search pattern. Sergeant Marco Alvarez nodded grimly. No way we can fight through that. Not with our limited weapons and mixed group. Dr. Emmett Patel, who had been uncharacteristically quiet since their encounter with the energy beings, suddenly spoke up. What if we don't have to fight? All eyes turned to him as he continued. The Guardian showed us the interconnectedness of all life on this planet. Maybe we can use that to our advantage. Zin tilted its oversized head, considering. Planet respond to thought, emotion, perhaps distraction possible. Ilara felt a spark of hope. Amit, Zin, work on that angle. See if you can communicate with the local life forms, create some kind of diversion. Marco, you and I will plan our approach. The rest of you, prepare for a quick move. We may only get one shot at this. As the group dispersed to their tasks, Ilara couldn't shake a nagging feeling of unease. They had come so far, overcome so much, but something felt off. She scanned the faces of her team, human and alien alike, searching for the source of her discomfort. Her eyes landed on one of Zin's crew members, a younger alien whose name translated roughly to Ven. The alien's posture was tense, its movements jerky and uncertain. As Ilara watched, Ven slipped away from the main group, moving towards a cluster of those strange, pulsating fungal growths they had encountered earlier. Instinct took over. Ven, Ilara called out softly, not wanting to alert the others. Everything okay? The young alien froze, then slowly turned to face her. In its large eyes, Ilara saw a mix of fear, determination, and guilt. Sorry, Ven said, its grasp of English clearly not as advanced as Zin's. Must protect my people. You not understand. Before Ilara could react, Ven pressed something on its suit. A high-pitched whine filled the air, and Ilara realized with horror that it was some kind of signaling device. No, she shouted, lunging forward, but it was too late. The plane erupted into chaos. The Zikthar forces turned as one, weapons raised, moving with terrifying speed towards their position. At the same time, the ground began to shake, the fungal growths pulsating rapidly in response to the signal. Marco was at her side in an instant, weapon ready. Captain, what's happening? Ilara grabbed Ven, her voice tight with controlled anger. What have you done? Ven's eyes darted frantically between Ilara and the approaching Zikthar. Zikthar promised safety for my family if I help capture humans. Not know about guardians, about connection. Now, not know what right. Zin approached, its usual calm demeanor replaced by barely contained rage. You betray us all, Ven. Betray everything we learned. The ground shook more violently, and in the distance, Ilara saw massive shapes rising from the earth, the worm-like creatures they had encountered before, but now in greater numbers. We need to move now, Ilara commanded. Head for the outpost. It's our only chance. As the group began to run, Ilara made a split-second decision. She grabbed Ven's arm, pulling the conflicted alien along. You're coming with us. You started this, you'll help us finish it. They sprinted across the open plain, the sounds of Zikthar weapons fire and the roars of the massive worms filling the air. Amit and Zin, working in tandem, managed to use their newfound connection to the planet to direct some of the worms towards the Zikthar forces, buying them precious time. But it wasn't enough. As they neared the halfway point to the outpost, Ilara saw a Zikthar ship descending, cutting off their escape route. We're not going to make it, Marco yelled over the din of battle. Ilara's mind raced, searching for a solution. Then she saw it, a cave entrance, half hidden by the undulating terrain. There, she shouted, pointing. We can lose them underground. They changed course, diving into the cave just as a barrage of energy blasts scorched the ground where they had been standing. The cave was dark and narrow, forcing them to move in single file. Amit, Ilara called out, can you use what the Guardian showed you to find us a path? The scientist closed his eyes, concentrating. I think so. It's faint, but I can sense a network of tunnels. They might lead us to the outpost. As they moved deeper into the cave system, guided by Amit's newfound abilities, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter, but the respite was short-lived. The tunnels began to shake, dust and small rocks raining down on them. "They're using some kind of seismic charges," Marco said grimly, "trying to flush us out or bury us alive." The group pressed on, their progress slowed by the increasingly unstable tunnels. Ilara kept a firm grip on Ven, the young alien's earlier bravado replaced by clear terror. Suddenly, the tunnel ahead of them collapsed, blocking their path. As they turned to retreat, they saw that their way back was similarly cut off. They were trapped. "No way out," Jin said, its usual calm finally cracking. "End here." Ilara refused to give up. "There's always a way. Hammett, can you sense any other passages?" Hammett shook his head, despair evident in his voice. "Nothing close enough. The charges have disrupted the natural pathways." As the group huddled in the small space, the reality of their situation sinking in, Ven suddenly spoke up. "Can fix," it said, its voice trembling. "But dangerous. Might not survive." All eyes turned to the young alien. Ven reached into a pouch on its suit, pulling out a small, glowing device. "Prototype. Tap into planet's energy. Can clear path, but feedback. Unpredictable." Ilara stared at the device, then at Ven. "Why?" she asked simply. Ven's large eyes met hers, filled with a mix of regret and determination. "Learned truth too late, but can make right. Can give others chance." Before anyone could stop him, Ven activated the device. The air around them began to crackle with energy, and the walls of the tunnel glowed with an inner light. "Go," Ven shouted, straining to control the surging power. "Device show way. Follow light." Ilara hesitated for a split second, but the tunnel was already beginning to shift and reform around them. "Everyone move," she ordered. As they ran through the transforming tunnel, following the path of glowing energy, Ilara looked back one last time. She saw Ven surrounded by a maelstrom of rock and light, a serene expression on its alien face. Then, with a final surge of power, the tunnel sealed behind them. They emerged into a vast cavern, the far side opening onto the plain near the outpost. As they caught their breath, the reality of what had just happened sank in. "Ven," Zin said softly, its voice filled with a mix of sorrow and pride. "Redeemed an end." Ilara nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "We won't let their sacrifice be in vain. We have to reach that outpost, not just for our sake, but for everything we've learned, everything we've been entrusted with." As they prepared to make their final push to safety, Ilara looked at the faces around her, human and alien alike. They had been brought together by chance, forged into a team by adversity, and now shared a burden of knowledge and responsibility that transcended their individual species. The outpost lay just ahead, but Ilara knew that their true journey, the journey to bridge the gap between their peoples and protect the delicate balance of life in this sector of the galaxy, was only beginning. "Together," she said, echoing Zin's earlier sentiment. As one, they stepped out of the cavern and into the alien sunlight, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fate of two species, and perhaps the entire sector, rested on their shoulders. But as they moved forward, united in purpose, Ilara felt a surge of hope. They had seen the truth of their connection to each other and to all life. Now it was time to share that truth with the rest of their peoples. The final leg of their journey awaited, and with it, the chance to forge a new future among the stars. A new understanding. The alien sun of Kepler 186 hung low on the horizon, bathing the landscape in a surreal crimson glow as Captain Ilara Chen and her diverse team made their final approach to the outpost. The gleaming structure loomed before them, a beacon of hope after their harrowing journey. Ilara's mind raced, processing the events that had led them to this moment. The crash, the underground revelations, Ven's betrayal, and ultimate sacrifice. It all seemed like a lifetime ago, though mere days had passed. She glanced at her companions, human and alien alike, seeing in their eyes the same mix of exhaustion, determination, and newfound understanding that she felt herself. As they neared the outpost's perimeter, a shimmering energy field flickered into existence before them. Zin stepped forward, its large eyes blinking in the fading light. "Recognition protocols," the alien captain explained. "Outpost defenses activate for any approach." Dr. Emmett Patel, his scientific curiosity apparently undimmed by their ordeal, peered at the energy field with fascination. "Remarkable. It seems to be analyzing our biological signatures." Sergeant Marco Alvarez, ever vigilant, kept his salvaged weapon at the ready. "Let's hope it's feeling friendly," he muttered. After a tense moment, the energy field pulsed and then dissipated, allowing them passage. As they stepped onto the outpost grounds, Ilara felt a subtle shift in the air, as if they had crossed some invisible threshold. The main entrance rised open, and a group of aliens emerged, the same species as Zin, but clad in what appeared to be official uniforms. Their leader, distinguished by elaborate markings on its environmental suit, stepped forward. "Welcome," it said, its mastery of English surprising Ilara. "I am Coordinator Lux. We have been monitoring your approach with great interest." Ilara straightened, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. "I'm Captain Ilara Chen of the Earth Exploratory Force. We come seeking aid, but more importantly, bearing a message of utmost importance." Lux's large eyes studied each member of the group in turn. "Yes, we detected the energy signature from the Guardian Sanctuary. It has been millennia since they last revealed themselves. Come, there is much to discuss." As they were led into the outpost, Ilara marveled at the seamless blend of organic and technological elements in its design. The walls seemed to pulse with life, reminding her of the vast underground network they had encountered. They were brought to a circular chamber that Ilara assumed served as some kind of command center. Holographic displays flickered to life around them, showing various sectors of space, including Earth and the homeworld of Zin's people. Lux gestured towards the displays. "The conflict between our species has escalated beyond this planet. Even now, fleets gather, poised for a war that could devastate this entire sector." The news hit Ilara like a physical blow. They had been so focused on their immediate survival that the larger implications of the conflict had seemed distant, abstract. Now the reality of what was at stake crashed down upon her. "That's why we're here," she said, her voice firm despite her inner turmoil. "We've been shown a truth that could change everything." Over the next hour, Ilara and her team recounted their experiences, the crash, their underground journey, and most importantly, the revelations imparted by the Guardians. As they spoke, Amit and Zin worked together to interface with the outpost systems, sharing the sensory data they had recorded during their encounter with the energy beings. The chamber filled with gasps of awe as the assembled aliens experienced echoes of the cosmic interconnectedness the Guardians had revealed. Ilara felt it too, a rekindling of that profound sense of unity that transcended species and even individual worlds. When they finished, silence fell over the chamber. Lux's expression was unreadable, but Ilara sensed a mix of wonder and trepidation in the alien stance. "What you have brought us," Lux said finally, "is both a gift and a burden. The implications are staggering." Marco, ever the pragmatist, spoke up. "That's all well and good, but we got ships ready to blast each other out of the sky. How do we stop this war before it's too late?" Lux turned to the holographic displays, manipulating them with graceful movements. "We have limited time, but not all is lost. Our long-range communications array can broadcast a message to both fleets simultaneously." "But will they listen?" Amit asked, voicing the concern they all shared. Zin stepped forward, its posture radiating determination. "Must make them listen. Too much at stake." Ilara nodded, feeling a surge of resolve. "We'll need to show them, not just tell them." "Amit, Zin, can you work with the outpost systems to recreate what the Guardians showed us? To let them feel, even for a moment, the true nature of our connection?" The human scientist and alien captain shared a look of understanding. "We can try," Amit said. "It won't be as powerful as what we experienced, but it might be enough to give them pause." As Amit and Zin set to work, interfacing their makeshift devices with the outpost's advanced technology, Ilara turned to Lux. "We'll need to address both fleets. Not just their leaders, but every individual on those ships. This message has to reach everyone." Lux considered for a moment, then nodded. "It can be done. But the words must be chosen carefully. The fate of our peoples may rest on what is said in these next moments." Ilara felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She had trained for first contact scenarios, for diplomatic missions, but nothing could have prepared her for this. She closed her eyes, centering herself, remembering the profound sense of unity the Guardians had shown them. When she opened her eyes, she saw her team, human and alien, watching her with trust and expectation. Even Marco, usually skeptical of anything he couldn't shoot, gave her a nod of encouragement. "Let's do this," Ilara said, stepping up to the communication array. The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Amit and Zin made final adjustments to their jury-rigged system, while Lux prepared the communication channels. Ilara took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. Finally, Lux gave the signal. They were broadcasting. Ilara began to speak, her voice carrying to thousands of beings poised on the brink of war. To all those who can hear my voice, human and alien alike, I ask you to pause and listen. My name is Captain Ilara Chen of Earth, and I stand here with beings you have long considered your enemies. But we come to you now not as adversaries, but as messengers, bearers of a truth that transcends our conflicts, our differences, even our individual species. She gestured to Amit and Zin, who activated their device. A wave of energy pulsed out through the communication array. What you are about to experience is just a fraction, a mere echo of what was revealed to us, Ilara continued. But even this glimpse should show you what is truly at stake. Across the fleets, beings of both species suddenly gasped as they felt it, a sense of profound connection, of unity with all life. It lasted only moments, but Ilara knew from experience that those moments would change them forever. We are all part of something greater, she said, her voice thick with emotion. A vast cosmic tapestry of life that spans not just this sector, but the entire universe. The conflict between our species threatens not just our individual worlds, but the very fabric of life itself. She paused, letting her words sink in. I know there is hurt between us, history that cannot be easily forgotten. But I have seen humans and aliens work together, risk their lives for each other, in the face of challenges that would have been insurmountable alone. I have witnessed sacrifice and redemption that transcend species. Ilara thought of Ven, the young alien who had betrayed them but ultimately given its life to save them. We have been given a chance, perhaps our last chance, to forge a new path. Not just for our own peoples, but for all life in this sector and beyond. She took a deep breath, her next words carrying the weight of everything they had experienced. I call upon the leaders of both fleets to stand down, to meet with us here, at this outpost, and see for yourselves the truth we have discovered. And to all individuals listening, I ask you to look within yourselves, to that spark of connection you just felt, and ask, is this conflict truly the legacy we wish to leave for future generations? Ilara stepped back from the array, her heart pounding. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then slowly, reports began to come in. Ships were powering down weapons. Commanders were calling for diplomatic channels to be opened. It wasn't a full resolution. There were still dissenters, still those calling for war. But it was a start, a chance. As the tension in the command center began to ease, Ilara felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Marco, a rare smile on his face. Not bad, Captain, he said. Looks like we might have actually pulled this off. Amit was beaming, his eyes shining with the excitement of new scientific frontiers to explore. Just imagine what we could learn, working together instead of fighting. Zin approached, its alien features somehow conveying a sense of profound gratitude. You have given our peoples chance for future, for understanding. Ilara looked around at her team, human and alien united by shared experience and a common purpose. She thought of the Guardians, of the vast network of life they had glimpsed, and of the responsibility they now carried. This is just the beginning, she said, her voice filled with determination and hope. We have a lot of work ahead of us, building trust, fostering cooperation. But together, I believe we can create something remarkable. As if in response to her words, the holographic displays around them shifted, showing new stellar cartography. Unexplored sectors of space teeming with potential. Lux stepped forward, gesturing towards the display. Perhaps, the alien coordinator said, it is time for a new mission. Not one of conquest or conflict, but of joint exploration, to seek out new life, new civilizations, and to spread the understanding we have gained. Ilara felt a thrill of excitement at the prospect. This was why she had joined the Earth Exploratory Force, not just to see new worlds, but to forge connections, to expand the boundaries of human understanding. She looked at her team, Marco, Amit, Zin, and the others, seeing in their eyes the same sense of purpose, of infinite possibility. Well, she said, a smile spreading across her face, what are we waiting for? We've got a universe to explore. As they gathered around the star charts, human and alien working side by side to plan their next adventure, Ilara knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. They had been brought together by chance, forged in adversity, and enlightened by ancient wisdom. Now they stood ready to write a new chapter in the cosmic story, one of unity, discovery, and the boundless potential of life itself. The end of their old mission marked the beginning of something far greater. And as the twin suns of Kepler 186 set on this chapter of their journey, Ilarichin and her diverse crew looked to the stars, ready to embark on the greatest adventure of all, a future of peaceful cooperation and shared discovery among the cosmos.